Hello and welcome to the penultimate post-match reaction for pre-season, thankfully, for Rangers in what has been another terrible, terrible game. I'm joined by John Walker. Rangers have been defeated 2-1 to, a sort of average Birmingham FC side, I would say. Didn't think they showed anything particular. Two very, very poor goals from a Rangers perspective. A Scott Wright screamer in the second half. That might be the only positive I can take out of the game. But John, we'll get straight into it before we get into the lineup here. Was that game as bad as it seemed, or is that just a case of players not having much experience with playing with each other? And fire away for the next 10 minutes if you need to.
I think it was as bad as it seems. See, for as close to the season starting as we are, and considering it's Hearts away on the opening day, I'm really concerned. I don't care that it's a different lineup. I'm going to say the same things. I should expect to see what we're trying to do. I think I need to just accept that there is no what we're trying to do. What we are doing is what we will try to do and what we'll continue to do. And the better players we have, the better results we'll get from it, which means we need to somehow find a perfect 11 that's going to stay fit a full season and never miss a game so that we can get consistency in whatever it is we're trying to do, because it's all the same things. Alex Lowry, for all his qualities, one of them's no him watching a ball going to recede for 45 minutes. It's honestly baffling. I put up the clip of Liam Kelly and folk are going, we couldn't break through the press. That's what you've got to do at Gate Park. And I'm like, there's somebody in 25 yards of space. And there always was somebody within 25 yards of space. And our first instinct is just to say it's too tight, it's too close, it's too hard, and just go direct. And it's fucking howling. And the problem you've got is we actually win a throw-in from that incident I was talking about in their half. And folk are like, yeah, look, we took that throw-in, by the way, and ended up back with Liam Kelly for 40 seconds. We took a kick off in the second half, mate, where we put it back to Liam Kelly and kicked it straight out of the park. And Birmingham had the ball within 10 seconds. What are you doing? Like, this isn't football anymore. Football's changed. And to me, I'm watching football that for 20 years ago. I'm watching football that doesn't exist anymore. Like, there are team. I watched Airdrie Aberdeen last night, and Airdrie by far played better football last night against a team a tier above them for 60 minutes in Aberdeen. Only lost the game because of a sloppy goal, and they play much better football than us. It just is. There's no two ways about it. You've got a guy in the Championship, Scotland, working with the second lowest budget in the Championship in Scotland, and he is pulling with younger players than ours, by the way, that played tonight. He's pulling out results and performances in a style of football against Aberdeen away that Rangers can't do to League One Birmingham. And I understand that what's probably changed in the last 20 years is we've went from Rangers and Celtic being able to probably compete in the Premier League if they had those fortunes, to Rangers and Celtic could probably win the Championship in England if they went down there, to now us going, we'd be fucking League One cannon fodder in the current climate. And that is grim. That is so grim. And tonight proved that. The press worked a couple of times, but I've got numerous clips of Birmingham just popping the ball around us and making us look amateur. And honestly, that is the lowest I've seen. Like, we are getting popped about by League One Birmingham, who also made 10 changes and we're still doing it, by the way.
Yeah.
So how come Birmingham can make 10 changes to their starting 11 and still pop the ball around and have a style of football and break teams up? I don't actually. I think Birmingham lost a little bit in the final third, but everything before then was pretty much bang on. It was pretty clear how they wanted to get into our half, and they did it, and it was just broke down when it got to the wingers. And they did make 10 changes. They fell off a little bit when they made the 10 changes, but they were still able to play through lines, and it was the exact same team. When they made the 10 changes, it was the same style, it was the same play.
Yeah.
That's where the frustration comes in when people tell me he needs to get his own players in, is because other teams manage it with less budgets and the same types of changes to their squad. It's just, it's worrying, but I still think that with what I've seen, I know folk are going to laugh because we're Rangers, the Conor Barron stuff that I've just said on Twitter. We have not been getting the bare minimum from people. We've not been getting people going into 50-50s and fighting for every ball. We've actually not. It's embarrassing. That's how low our performances have been, is we have not been getting that dig that we get from Barron and Diamondi, which is why fans like them so much, is because they actually get stuck in all the time and and work their arse off all the time. So I think I'm honestly at the point now where I actually think, see if you get a good 6 alongside Barron and push Diamandi on one, that's your 3 in midfield, like that can get about and press, and it looks less like a creative 10. It probably becomes closer to the 3 centre mids we want. It's 3. Yep. We need 3 dogs in there if we're going to compete with Celtic. That's just the way it is, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, listen, it's hard to disagree with what you said there, but well, we're 5 minutes in and that's just touching on the lineup here. But Rangers lined up with Liam Kelly in goal, Tav at right back, Balogun, Nsiala, Ridvan, McCausland, Diomande, McKinnon, Matondo, Lowry, and Danilo. Firstly, were you surprised to see Tav in there, given all the links that he's had with Trabzonspor? Like, where the hell did that come from tonight?
Yeah, like, this is where you get a little bit frustrated as well, because I've assumed this whole time that the Tavernier stuff is real and it's happening and it's going to be done before the end of the transfer window. It's no our responsibility anymore to give anyone any minutes. There was Divine King who could have played those positions.
Yeah. I
don't know why he was in the team, and especially that he have him out at 45. Like, I do not get what the purpose of any of that was. So yes, that was the one that took me most by surprise.
Yeah, it's a weird one. As you say, it's just not even that. Like, just even if there is a move on, just risk of injury to that, I just seemed like a really, really silly move, putting him in from the start to me there. Like, the next question I've got here, quite a broad one, and it is, what were Rangers trying to do in that first half especially? I just couldn't see any patterns of play. As you sort of touched on it, every time we seemed to press, the ball just ended up with Liam Kelly, who just launched the ball back up. And that happened about 5, 6, 7 times in the first half. We just seemed to have no ideas that every time we were attacking or defending in that first half.
This is the thing that's kind of concerning me, is because one of the first things you would be taught on a C licence about playing out for the back is when it's going to your fullbacks, the wide man cannot be in the same line as your fullback. They should not be in the same line. If one's in, the other's out. If one's out, the other's in. That's how it is. So if your right back's in the touchline, you need to have people inside of him, whether that's the right winger and 2 centre mids as well. So there's options in there, but you need to free up that line. How many times does Tavernier get the ball and play a straight, flat pass to McCausland, who's on that touchline with his back to play? There is nothing Ross McCausland can do. There are players giving the ball to people just to get rid of the ball. That's what it feels like, unless somebody wants to correct and say, that's how we're being told to play, is get it down the lines into people's feet or into channels from that side. To me, what we've seen since Postecoglou came to Scotland is that somebody came into Scottish football and went, this is rubbish. What you guys are doing here is horrible. And I've got a superior way of playing. And what it did is open everyone's eyes up to things that I know Guardiola was doing it, but not everyone watches Man City every week. Is the rotations of fullbacks moving in? It's not just to look pretty and flood the middle. It frees up your winger. It gives your 8 a chance to pop out the other side. It actually allows you to move people around and ask questions. Rangers don't do that. They have their 2 centre midfielders. They have their banker 4. They've got their 2 centre halves. It goes centre half to goalie to centre half to fullback down the line to wide player that breaks down. It honestly just does that. Or it comes back into Kelly that has to go direct and we try and play off second ball. There's no rotation. There's no. I don't want to. I'm not getting into discussion about patterns, but you've got to at least move around and rotate about to try and get on the ball. This is like basics. You do it 5-a-side. You've got to do something to trigger getting on the ball, and it just doesn't seem to be there. And I understand there was times that the ball did go into, like Lowry, maybe his touch was poor. Diomande didn't quite get out of his feet. But I think that's when you see the ball less often. I think if you've got strong possession of the ball and you have maybe 100 touches, you'll see midfielders make better decisions. If you see the ball once every 5 minutes and you're expected to do a perfect touch and play the right pass, it's not going to happen. It's just not. Players get better with the more they see the ball, and it baffles me that I'm still seeing this same thing.
So how do we get our wingers more involved then? Is it a case of, because that to me seemed to be where it broke down a lot of the time. I agree with you, because I was getting so frustrated, especially that Tav McCausland channel. He had his ball, his back to the goal every single time he seemed to get the balls. You said Tav just seemed to be getting rid of it. Is it just a case of, I mean, we've been linked with Cherny today. The links in that seem pretty strong. Obviously we signed Cortez on another loan. Is it just a case of having better players in there that can handle getting the ball under pressure? Because, well, McCausland and Matondo were, for me, when Fraser came on, he did so much more than Matondo did in the first 60 minutes that he played.
If you look at what Vidvan was bringing to the team, December, January, the start of February, it was driving with the ball and taking it past the right winger that was trying to press him. And see, once you do that, you instantly give the opposite fullback or wing back a problem, because somebody has to commit to you. If it's a midfielder, it gets placed to another midfielder and goes out to the opposite winger. If it's the right back that comes out, it gets played to your left winger when it's Ridvan's side. That's what we were doing well, and that's why I think Hefty's been signed, because he's got the ability to drive with the ball himself. It's what Sterling will get at right back, because he's got the capability to drive with the ball himself. It'll literally be a reliance on that quick pop-off out to the right back that's deepened inside the width of the 18-yard box, down the line with McCausland. That full-back will then boost on and play into the centre midfield. That will try and switch it to the other side. That is the only way Clermont will play the ball through lines on the deck to get into a wide area. Otherwise, it's going to Kelly, and he's going to hit it to a 6'2" winger.
Yeah.
And that winger's going to win the knockdown and play from there. That's what it is. Or it's going to go up the centre forward and hope that our 10 picks up the ball and plays into a wide area. That's it. There's not going to be any change to that. That even when it gets good, and that's what it was like in the Hearts 5-0 game, even when it's good, that's the way the football is going to be. If you think back to the Hearts away goal, the 1-0 game at Tynecastle at Tavernier set up Seema.
Yep.
Starts from our own throw-in in our own like 18-yard box, and it's Tavernier popping it to McCausland. It might not. I think it's McCausland, and it goes back to Tavernier into midfield. Tavernier chests it and breaks through the line of like 3 people, and then plays a pass through the middle. It's reliant on individuals doing things. You're back to this, is that you need our best 11, and it needs to be a capable, good 11 to do individual things that gets us up the park, because I don't see how else it happens. And I think what he's going to be not lucky, but what's going to go in his favour is if he gets a good 6 and has Barron and Diomande in there. He's got people that are good at aggressively pressing, will turn over the ball. And what I like about Barron and Diomande is they actually can go 5 minutes without having a touch of a ball, and when they get it, they normally play a pass to a teammate. And it's an underrated skill if you're not going to have the ball a lot. And I like that they're good to find tight areas. So they might actually win the ball back and provoke a press and be able to find our 10 and 9s. And if that 9 is then capable of popping it off just with a simple 5-yard pass and get his breaking, it'll work. I'm not saying it won't work. Clermont's won 3 titles, right? So I can moan all I want. He's won 3 titles. He knows how to win titles. He knows how to do it. Doesn't he be pretty? But right now, what I'm seeing is a product that's not winning games. We've scored 1 goal for open play in pre-season, and also I've no idea what's happening. At least managers tend to get a bit more leeway if you go, well, I can see what we're doing, and it'll come good once players get familiar with it. But there's no getting familiar with it. This is it. Players know it. It's just now going, what players do we use, and are those players going to be in form? Can those players stay fit? And all those questions, I'm sure, will be answered come the Hearts game. But oh Jesus, man.
I hope they're answered. I know, it's just the whole thing of what you were saying there, that system will rely on a number 9 that can actually take the ball down and doesn't have a touch like Cyril Dessers, who I think we could dedicate the next half hour of the podcast to how awful he's been over the last 2 games, because let's face it, he has been terrible. But let's come to Rangers sort of off the ball stuff here, and another huge concern. I was actually watching the game with one of my pals, and that was what we kept saying to each other every single time that Birmingham had the ball. We know Clermont likes this sort of 4-4-2 set up off when the opposition are attacking, but it just seemed to me that one of the Birmingham centre halves, it happened in the Man United game quite frequently as well, 1 pass, and that was our whole attacking and midfield taken out, and they seemed to be in the attack. That seems like a huge concern to me going forward into the new season, John.
Mate, it's so reactive. I get my back up so much on Twitter with people that tell you don't know what you're talking about. It's not that simple. Or you've never played football at any level. You wouldn't understand what it is. Mate, I've went in and watched good coaches at good clubs. I've went in and shadowed them for days on end. I've done my licenses with them all. I've done my license with a boy who's over in Ligue 1 in France. He's a head coach. Like that's the kind of people that I'm talking to and familiarising myself with to understand what they do. Our press is reactive. So we've got that 4-4-2. 4-4-2 press is fine. I think it's probably, when I'm coaching 15, 16-year-olds, I think it's the easiest way to coach a press because everyone's matched up. Even if it's a 4-3-3, the number 10's getting picked up by the second centre half and you're going man for man, you're pushing up. I don't mind that. The 4-4-2 press is fine. What I'm watching is two players going from the front line. There's no body shape. You're not showing anyone either side. You're letting the centre half be square onto you, so he's waiting for you to step to him and he's going to pass round you. There's a 3-B-2 behind you. That's going to be happening. The other centre forward doesn't, or the 10 doesn't drop in on the centre mid. They don't force it down a side, they don't force it to fullback. They allow it to go to the goalie, they allow it to go to the opposite centre half, and they let it be popped into midfield. They let it go to the three only places you try and press teams away from.
Yeah.
We act, and it is clearly an active ploy that he thinks works because it can't be every person that comes in that's doing it wrong. It can't be. Yeah. So it's either not understood by the players or it's exactly what Clement wants. I watched Dessers 3 times again be within a yard of a centre midfielder, a holding midfielder, when the fullbacks get the ball, and he's more concerned with running towards the centre half, he's not getting the ball, than stopping the pass into. And any press I would ever have worked on, ever at any level and been shown, would be you would want it to go back to that centre half and trap that centre back for his channel side. That's it. In worst case, it goes back to the keeper, and then you reset again and make them choose a centre half, push them to the side, and go again. This is like stuff I would coach 14-year-olds. This is why I get my back up in the group chats, mate, so much, because I am like, I do not understand what we're trying to do, and I consider myself to have a reasonable football brain and understanding what people want in presses that and teams that tend to do it properly and work. And one of those is not letting two people in a wide man stay up in front of the line of the ball whilst a team play through you. And the off chance that your two midfielders win on the overload against them and then counter.
Yeah, so it's not the system; it's the personnel that are in there and the way that they're carrying out the instructions. You think, or what instructions are getting given.
I don't know, because see when I'm saying that, Gerrard was always very happy for the 4 and the 3 to be the ones that dealt with all the play. So he would constantly let Celtic have Frimpong and James Forrest with the ball in the right wing area. He was quite happy for that to happen. And it would be Kamara and Barisic's job to deal with that. And there'd be a spare midfielder in there somewhere. But then you would get one of the wingers coming back eventually, and it would fill in that space. But Gerrard was actually quite happy to have the front 3 be caught ahead of the ball. But it almost felt really controlled. Like I remember all this, like the Celtic games that I used to think Celtic were countering us. They were 2v1 down the side, and I was like, no, actually, we look really, really comfortable where we've forced the ball to go. The problem I've got with Clement leaving free up the park is teams tend to have the ball in the centre of our pitch behind their midfielders. That's a problem. If it was constantly going down the lines and it was crosses into the box for Goldson and Sia, Balogun, Suter, Davies to deal with, I'd maybe be a bit more composed. It's the fact it's coming through the middle of the pitch all the time in those overloads, and good teams are just going to constantly exploit you. It doesn't seem like we have a way to be like, right, if you break a press, it's at least going to be in the wide areas. It's not, it's through the middle. I don't get it. It seems, honestly, like it doesn't seem like the opposite. It is the opposite of what you would want to happen.
Yeah, it is perplexing, and with the season fast approaching, it is getting worrying. Listen, there was 4 changes there at half-time. Tav, Diomande, Lowry, Danilo all coming off. King, Barron, Scott Wright, Dessers all coming on. I think Tom Commentator and Andy Little did their best to say that, see the positives in that second half. Other than, and let's face it, and how the hell has this happened that Scott Wright has become our best player during pre-season, man? I just think it sums up the state of play there. But do you think that second half was any better? Do you think Barron shored the midfield up a wee bit, or do you think it was just more of the same?
I think Barron helps because he's at least got energy. And I know this is like, I'm starting to sound like a pure amateur football fanatic here, but sometimes you do just need someone that can get in people's faces, drive the line of people up, and organise the press as well. Because there were a few occasions where he was literally telling Dessers not to go, and he was getting annoyed with him when he did go. So that's one thing that would concern me, is that you've got a new kid that's come into the team, and he seems to be confident enough to be the boss of what's happening, which I think is backing up a lot of Rangers fans' mental claims and worries that the team are just a bunch of like wet wipes that are just waiting to be pounded all the time. And you've got a kid that's come in, and he does look like he's kind of started. I mean, I think Diamandi does it, but Diamandi's a quieter person. But I think them two are like, no, we'll sort this. We'll do it. We can't sort this, and that to me is embarrassing. That I really, really. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that he's there, but it isn't. It does feel a bit embarrassing that he's walked in and appears to have the kind of confidence to be like, no, let's get fucking stuck into this.
Well, that's exactly it. Connor Barron's just through the door, and I think it's safe to say he was already in that bloody leadership group, isn't he? Because you saw it after the goal against Man United when between him and Hefty, and I mentioned it in my post-match reaction from Murrayfield. I absolutely loved seeing that he started pulling people out, and it was no. There's 50,000 people here. I'm showing them that it was you that made that mistake. So. Yeah, I mean, he might be in for a shout with the armband if Tav does go, but maybe that's a bit early for that. But yeah, I largely agree with you. That second half, there was elements that were a bit better, but when Rangers even just got into the final third, it was, I mean, you can talk about this if you wish, but some of the decision making tonight at times was just absolutely honking. I just felt players were shooting, and it was like they're panicking because, we've got a shot at goal, so let's take it. And Lowry had one in the first half. I know Scott Wright had a couple in the second half, and it seemed just to get a shot on target. Some of the balls into the box, there was I can't remember exactly who it was that played it, but there was a pass into Matondo in the first half. And for me, if he finds Danilo at the back post, it's a tap, and I'm sure that was Cole McKinnon actually. What did you make about the decision making at times in that game before we sort of round things up?
I think it's that. I don't. How do we articulate this without sounding like a dick again? It's not patterns of play, but I watch a lot of Postecoglou stuff with Tottenham, and see when you see Tottenham's front five drills that they do with the two attacking mids and the two wingers, and the crossing and finishing, you can see exactly Postecoglou's team in that training session, and ours is just all off the cuff. Just how to go create something, go do something, go take a shot. You've seen that way the Clement stats around shots outside the box. They're like trebled when Beale went out to Clement coming in. So there's a lot of element of like we're not going to even get that of like where we want our full backs to overlap so we can cross into the box, and we want 2 and 3, like literally the detail that the past championship managers are like talking to the players about when it's in crossing positions, which 3 have to attack and where they attack the box and how they attack the box and which type of crosses that player would play depending on which type of reception of the pass through he got. And I'm going like, yeah, so I've seen it done in this level. I know it can happen, but it's the same thing. So you leave it just down to players' individuality to make the right decisions at the right time. How do people know where to go? How do people know where to run? When's Dessers meant to go front post? When's Dessers meant to go back post? I don't understand. And what I don't see, as I see too often, Dessers is the only one in the box for the cross. So again, I'm going, why? If I can't see it, then what is it? What is it? Like, what is it you want from your front players? Or is it just that the goal happens and that's it? But like, is it just that? And if it is, fine. But if teams defend well against you in 1v1s and win their individual battles, you're not going to do anything. They're going to struggle again. And even like that, like I think Scott Wright won a press back, played a good cross into Dessers. Dessers takes a tighter touch. He should play it to Matondo. You probably got a chance. The goal, Robbie Fraser plays a nice ball into Dessers. Dessers a lovely touch. Scott Wright, good run and finish. But those combinations are just happening because the space is opened up. They're not combinations that appear to be worked on. Well, definitely not that, because Robbie Fraser just won the ball back, so it was in transition. So again, I'm like, Dessers can get a ball played into him. and he won't have somebody running off him at the same angle every time, or he won't have anyone running off him sometimes. He'll have a wide person tucked in instead of on the touchline, or sometimes it'll be the touchline instead. It's like, so as much as we criticise Dessers on this, you're kind of going, like, if you have simpler things, it's easier for people to link up and know where they're meant to go. It's all of that again. Like, I can have your argument about if we don't play it for the back because you don't want to take the risks. But you need to have something somewhere.
Yeah.
You need to have like a philosophy or we're going to say it, a pattern, like somewhere. Even if it's just getting your fullbacks overlap, and even if it's just something as simple as that, you've got to have something so we know how to attack. Otherwise, we're back to what I said. Otherwise, you're just on the situation of Philip Clement needs a good 11, and they need to be fit all the time, and they need to be on form every game, and they need to win all their individual battles all the time, because the sum of the parts won't beat a team. The individuals will win us games, and that is a Walter Smith 9 in a row, Brian Laudrup Gaza level thing that we do not have anymore. There's no Brian Laudrups in Scottish football. There's no Paul Gascoignes in Scottish football. It doesn't exist anymore. That's why teams developed this, because they knew that individual talented players were getting kicked out of games, marked out of games, doubled up on out of games. It was just leaving them behind. So teams had to think of a way of playing where the whole squad could damage different areas. We're at the point where we need Sima, we need a Lawrence Shankland, we need Ross McCausland to be flying, we need Cortez to be fit, we need our best left back, we need our best right back, we need both centre halves to be there. You need Jack Butland to always be on top form. It's like you take all the ability of any variables out of the way and just say everyone has to be perfect all the time and take our chances to get them. And
it's just not going to happen. It's not realistic, isn't it? No?
I don't believe it can. This is why we were talking about it in the chat earlier. It doesn't need to be pretty, but it needs to be consistent. And if you rely on a best 11, it's never going to be consistent, because you are going to have injuries and suspensions throughout the season.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. It's really interesting that you're talking about, individual players and those players that have those moments of individual brilliance at time. A guy that for Rangers does that to me, Todd Cantwell, nowhere to be seen. I'm not sure if you've seen this yet, but my phone was going absolutely mental, and so it'll be fascinating to see your reaction to this. As Philip Clement in his post-match press conference confirmed that Todd Cantwell has asked to leave the club. What are your thoughts on that? And given all that's been said, I think a few days ago when Clement was talking about, the players, he was talking about Tav and said he's got a small injury, but when he talked about Cantwell, he just said there was small things going on behind the scenes, and I thought, maybe something's amiss here. And I know that the two of them have never got on, but how do you react to the news that Cantwell's asked to leave the club?
I don't like it, in the sense that I don't like what Clement's done with him, but that's from an outside looking in point of view. To me, a Reece sub, see if he'd done it at half time, it'd have been fine. I think the way he did it was actually embarrassing, and it derailed us of any chance of having a good Todd Cantwell for the rest of that season, as far as I was concerned, because he was always up against it. He was always going to be, look at the Reece game, this has backed up his attitude. Todd Cantwell, for me, every time I felt he played, again, I go to the basics. Dug in, worked his bollocks off, created as much as he could. I don't think he got the best Rangers team around him at any point. I think he was in when others were out and stuff like that. I think it's better that he leaves, and I think it's better that he leaves as soon as possible for whatever fee we're getting offered. Philip Clement very clearly cannot work with somebody like Todd Cantwell. And that's fine. That's Philip Clement's the one that has to deliver Rangers a championship. It has to deliver Rangers winning football. And if Todd Cantwell's someone he sees as divisive or someone that he can't work with, then he needs to go. But I really don't like the idea that it's now like it's Todd Cantwell's fault, because Todd Cantwell's fit now and he's not featured in pre-season. Unless Todd Cantwell's saying I don't want to play, I want to be fit to leave the club. But then that's something that should have been told to us 2 weeks ago instead of tonight. Yeah. So it suggests to me that Todd Cantwell has been frozen out, been left to train on his own, and has now just went, look, if I'm not playing, I want out. And that's fair. I wouldn't understand why anyone would begrudge that. I understand. I've got a preference on how I like football. Todd Cantwell's somebody that would be in my Rangers team. He'd probably play off the left in a 4-3-3. He wouldn't play in either of the 8 positions. He wouldn't play in a 4-2-3-1, so I wouldn't play one. but he would be in my team. I would have fullbacks higher, and he'd come inside and play off the left that he did at Norwich as a kind of inside 10. I would make a space for Todd Cantwell on my team and work, because I think if you get Todd Cantwell flying, I think you get a really good player. But yeah, to me, it's Clement's experience. Clement probably knows the type of attitudes and type of characteristics he wants and doesn't want in this dressing room, and that is absolutely fine. But when we do not have massive amounts of quality on our side, I think you need to maybe find a way to deal with it better and potentially keep Todd Cantwell. But that obviously isn't an option.
Yeah, no, look, it'll be a sad ending if Todd Cantwell does leave the club. Which, if you're putting in a transfer quest, it looks like the end of your time at a club if you're doing that, unless the manager changes. But you know, I'll throw in the sort of devil's advocate argument there and say that sometimes he never did it in the big games and never showed up, and maybe you could balance that off against him. But I just know, after we're off this podcast, I'm going to have to go and phone Ross Chalmers and make sure that he's okay at the reaction to that news, because we all know how much he absolutely loves Todd Cantwell. But look, listen, I've got 2 questions left. Might be big questions, but we'll get to them, and then that'll be us. But even if, and there's been very, very tangible links for all these players now throughout the season, even if we get rid of Goldson, Tav, Dessers, Lammers, Cantwell, and we bring in replacements, it looks like Vaclav Cherny's signing for Rangers, which looks to be a good addition. And again, just before we come on, I saw from a reputable Spanish source, it looks like we've put another improved offer in Joan Jordan. And even if we bring in another couple of guys, is this going to be enough? And I can even roll the second question and say, we're 10 days away from Hearts. We're 14 days away from the Champions League qualifiers. Are we ready?
If we do not, or if someone else doesn't pry Lawrence Shankland away from Hearts before that Tynecastle game, we do not win at Tynecastle.
Yeah,
that is an absolute certainty in my mind. If we do not, or someone else does not pry Lawrence Shankland away from Hearts, and they have Danda, Spittle, Forrest, and Shankland as their front 4, we go to Tynecastle and we start the season 2 points minimum off Celtic, guaranteed. Even if we replace all those players, they're going to take time to get up to speed. You've missed your whole pre-season, your whole chance to work with them is gone. They're already playing catch-up. That's our concern. I understand that we've been hamstrung by needing people out the door before we get people in. That's just a reality of where we are financially. Mm-hmm. But they're behind, and we've got Hearts, we've got Champions League qualifiers that we're going to struggle in already as it is. How do we get those players up to speed with the available players we currently have, who I don't think can pull through what we need to just now?
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult task for the start of the season. But listen, I think that just about wraps it up for what's been another pretty bleak podcast for pre-season. But listen, John, thanks for coming on and chatting to us about this. I have no idea how the start of this season is going to go or what. And I thought it was bad last year with Beale when we were away to Hoffenheim away and all that stuff. But I think this might be worse this year, but we'll see. But listen, thank you to everybody for watching, tuning in. We'll be back at the weekend. I'm sure we'll bring some sort of reaction to the game against Union Berlin if we're all still here hanging about for it, depending on how bad that game goes. It'll be interesting to see who's still in the squad. But we'll be back then. But thank you. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you all again soon.